Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this lecture by Florian Summer from SUMMACUMFEMMER. For anyone who doesn't know me, whether you're watching the recording or you're here in the session today, I'm Jasper Ludwig. I'm a lecturer here at the School of Architecture and Built Environment at the University of Newcastle, and it's my pleasure, my duty, my pleasure to be moderating the lecture this afternoon. Part of that involves beginning the session by acknowledging the traditional owners of the country on which I probably think most of us who are in this particular session are located today, the Pumbalong people of the Awabakal Nation, and paying respects to elders past, present and emerging, which is of course an acknowledgement that I extend to the country on which all of you are located if you're not on Awabakal country today. We are, I think, really lucky to be hearing from Florian this afternoon, who's joining us at a kind of brisk 8 a.m. morning in Leipzig, in Germany, where he's one of the co-founders of SUMMACUMFEMMER, which is a architectural practice that he established in 2015 together with Anne Femmer, which is where SUMMACUMFEMMER comes from, in case you hadn't already realized that. The lecture today, as I'm sure many of you know, is part of our Visiting Architects and Experts program, which is really a kind of opportunity that we have and that we're very lucky to have as a school to bring practitioners, to bring academics, to bring designers, to bring experts into our school to kind of complement our teaching. And to do that within the sort of framework of a series of thematic streams. One of those streams is called Radical Domesticities, which this lecture forms a part of. And that's a stream that is kind of broadly concerned with questions of housing, housing policy, governance, alternative models of domesticity, alternative models of ownership, and I guess in general, thinking differently about how housing might be delivered and what it might mean for the city. And I think SUMMACUMFEMMER, as I'm sure you'll all appreciate quite soon, fits perfectly within the objectives of this stream, given their work on housing projects over numerous years, but maybe arguably, more prominently recently in a project, a collective housing project called Sanriemo, which is part, and I think we'll hear about it, of the Kooperative Großstadt in Munich, which is sort of roughly translated as the cooperative metropolis in Munich, a project that everyone should really know about, for which Florian and Anna and their colleagues received the 2022 German Architecture Museum Prize. It's a moment of comeuppance for SUMMACUMFEMMER, I think, because they're also going to be curating the German pavilion at the 2023 Venice Architecture Biennale, together with Arc Plus, the publication. And that's going to focus on topics of care, repair, maintenance, all topics that I know are really relevant to the projects that are happening in our school. And I think happening at a timely moment here, this lecture, for a lot of you as you finalize your projects, as you start thinking about first principles and returning to what's motivating some of your work. I don't think there could be a better time to be hearing from Florian and SUMMACUMFEMMER. So thank you so much, Florian, for making the time, for sharing your work with us. I think we're all really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about it and then having a conversation later on.
Great, thanks Jasper for the very kind invitation and introduction. I will try to share my screen. So there's this slightly mysterious title, The Shelf Life of a Couch, and I hope after the lecture you will understand a bit what this title is about. This small lecture, and I will turn on my timer for 40 minutes to keep it brief. You're in the final weeks of your projects, and I will not bother you too long. So this lecture will be about time and time in architecture, maybe a bit more precisely. We'll deal with time spans of architectural ideas, gestures, and materials. And as you, Jasper, said, we are a pretty young office actually, so we haven't built that much and haven't even drawn that much, which wasn't built that much, but we are still interested in the time aspect of architecture, and architecture that is something that changes and ages and is being used. And I will try to illustrate those ideas by referring to two projects. One is what Jasper just mentioned, the Sanremo project, a residential project in Munich, founded by a young housing cooperative in Munich who want to try to be part of the very, very dense Munich market of housing, and try to make an alternative to the usual housing systems there. And this project we didn't do on our own, just alone. We did it with our partners from Belgium, with Juliane Greb and Peter Krag. So it was also a collaborative transnational project in the way, which was also new for us, but very inspiring. And then I will also refer to a maybe not that much representative project. It's the house where I sit right now, where we live in here in Leipzig, and where we are architects, residents, and contractors, very non-professional contractors at the same time. So we will start with the longest time span, and of course there's much longer time spans I could refer to, but maybe to start with as a starting point, 27 years. That's the age of the first master plan of the Messestadt Munich-Riem. It was the former airport of Munich, and that's the place where our building, the Sanremo project, was built. And so it was built in the late 90s as a completely new part of Munich. And I think, or when you walk through the streets, you must think the idea was a bit to build the opposite of the old city of Munich, the old, very dense and very compact city of building of Munich. So there's a lot of for Germany quite wide streets, a lot of space in between the blocks, in between the buildings, which are more like solitaires there. And there's a bit of grass in front of almost every building, a bit of distance between the very wide streets and the buildings. And I think we already had the chance to adapt this 27 years old master plan slightly. So if you look at this building or this image here where you see our building, you see it's a bit higher than the other ones. It's actually a ground floor plus 5 stories on top, which was not like this in the original master plan. But the buildings you see on the sides, they are much older. They are I think around 20 years old, and our plot was the last free plot. And so we had the chance to make it already a bit higher. And the other thing is, we didn't really, there was a quite strict design guide how the building should look like, and we also tried to move a bit away from those ideas that the facades all need to be completely white and more or less plastic. But we tried to stick to the whiteness, but maybe use it in another way, as you can see here on those images. 26 years as I read on the internet, the average age of a residential building in Germany. So when you walk through the streets, 26 years is what you see in average. And of course, our aim when we designed the building was to design a building which lasts longer than 26 years, because a quarter of a century is not that much for a building. And our question in the competition already was, how universal in a way can the structure of a building be, and still allowing a lot of variety of different forms of living inside the building. And so we came up with this plan, with this, we might call it a concept plan, where you see it's like a 3/8 plan, where you have the bathroom and the staircases and also the kitchens in the middle of the building. And then you have a set of many individual rooms, or like indications of 40 square meter big rooms on the two facade sides. And this structure runs through the whole building overall, through all stories. So looking at this this raw construction plan, you see it's a skeleton plan. There's only a few load-bearing walls, most of them connected to the staircases, and there's concrete columns on the outside, and then there's this grid of squares and of fields which structure the building. And when you go to the next step, it would be this one. It would be the fit out plan for one of the stories, for the fourth story here. And you see what was added now is a wooden facade, which is in between the concrete columns, and quite a lot of lightweight partitioned plans, which divide this field of rectangles into the different plans. And of course, it's hard in this plan to see where are the edges of a flat or an apartment, where does it start and where does it end. And I will try to illustrate it a bit later. And as I said, we try to incorporate as many different forms of living into this structure, which was also in the brief. So, for example, the cooperative asked for very big flats where a lot of people could live in, with a lot of individual rooms. So our concept, or our idea was, isn't it possible to have just the kitchens in the middle as sort of joint communal areas, and all the other rooms around it would be individual rooms for a shared flat system. And we thought that's something which could be quite relevant in Munich, because it's quite expensive to live there, even though the cooperative and our building, there was a lot of focus on the costs. So in the end, I think we achieved a very low budget building, but of course still it's quite expensive to live in Munich. And we said, okay, can't there be many individual rooms, because joint or areas where you meet other peoples can be situated otherwhere in the building. And then we said there can also be, within the same systems, ways of living where it's not so clear that you only, where your individual room or your individual area start, but where things merge much more into each other, and one room which belongs today to the one flat can belong to another flat on the other tomorrow. And I will come back to this later as well. And one important idea was also to have this joint this communal area on the ground floor, more like an extension of the public streets, where you would wash your clothes, and there's also a cafe and working spaces included here. So next category would be 18 years, and we call it could it be something like a period of a childhood and an adolescence in an apartment, which means maybe 18 years is something where you don't change the structure, or where you don't change any walls within the buildings, because 18 years it's not so long, and you can maybe deal with what is there. So this is those are photographs from different flats, and you see there are those concrete beams which are like almost ghosts of the indications of the 14 square meter rooms, which can be there but must not be there, because there can be light walls underneath or not. And this is one configuration of a flat which a family decided to have it that way. And you see there, some of the rooms are more enclosed, and like you have only the 14 square meter rooms, and others are much more open, or there are two of the 14 square meter fields connected to each other, and that would also be the view into the kitchen zone in the middle here. But what you see is this structure, the concrete structure, which is something which we think will never be changed, hopefully. And then the white walls, which of course can be changed, but maybe, as I said, not every year, but maybe after 18 years or so, when the kids move out and you want to have a bigger room, and you can remove the walls because they are not load bearing, and the wall doesn't collapse when you take them out. 10 years in this case here would be the durability of the paint, of the steel construction, of the winter garden facade, which you see here. And maybe that's something different from the idea and how it's designed, because the concrete frame and the very rigid grid of the building is something which we think will hopefully never be changed, and also which doesn't really need to be maintained because it's on the inside of the building, and it's there's no rain coming to it. But in contrast to this, there's this very thin, very light winter garden facade, as we call it. Actually, it's not a winter garden because it's not thermally really insulating, but it's a bit of a buffer zone towards the outside. There's also, it serves as a noise reduction from the trade fair, which is just opposite, and they the master plan asked us to do some sort of noise protection to them, which is a bit from our side not necessary, but we thought it's good for anyway to have a very small zone in front of each room, which is a bit in between outside and inside. And the important thing was that every room has exits to it. So it's not like an individual balcony attached to a few rooms, maybe a living room or the kitchen, which is not possible because they are in the middle of the plan, but to every room, that every room has exit to it, because we didn't want to define what's going on in the rooms. Like we thought it's more interesting that in this 14 square meter rooms you can have a kids room, but also your living room or an office or whatever. And we didn't want to define the function through, for example, adding an individual balcony to it. So now there's this very narrow zone of this balcony. And we also thought it's interesting to make it just as so small that you can use it also to smoke a cigarette or put your plants outside, but not to use it as a communal area where you have your daily breakfast with your whole family, because there are other places in the building, for example, a very big roof garden, and also a courtyard, which is meant to be the area where you meet more people and where you have also much more space. So it was more like something in between when you're on your own or with another person to just step out of your room. And then it also serves, of course, thermally as a sort of buffer zone. So you have the curtains there, and in the summer you close the curtains, but the space of the winter garden is still part of your flat. The next category is 6 years. I researched it's the average durability of a sofa in Germany. So every 6 years, normally people buy a new sofa, and we thought it's maybe interesting to think about it, because it's another aspect of living and how you deal with your flat, your apartment, just by furnishing it differently. And again, we didn't want to say, here, look here, this is the place where your sofa is meant to be, but we can imagine that the sofa is pretty much everywhere in the plan. And so you see here the images, the photos we took just after the residents moved in. So sometimes it looks still a bit under construction, but I think also after now or 2 years, it still looks the same, because people don't change things from time to time. And it is interesting to see what places they found in the end for their sofa, according to how they want to live, how open they want to live, how they want to live together, how they want to how many kids they have, and so on, of course, or how they want to live together with other creatures like cats or so. Yeah, that's what it's a series of photos. And for example, here, that's also interesting. I think this image, like if you compare those two images here, the sofa is part of a much more, like you could call it, I don't know, like a loft occupation of the space, with this open kitchen and the sofa here, and everything is like floating into each other. And here, that flat, you have the sofa in like almost a bit squeezed into this 14 square meter room, but we thought it's just enough to use this 14 square meter room also as a living room. And the advantage is that this flat, for example, this apartment, the family has quite a lot of individual rooms now for their kids, and they are happy, or they are fine with a smaller living room instead. And again, here it's, for us, it was interesting to see the way that the people put in their sofas. We never imagined that it's important to have this slight tilt here, this slight shift in the configuration of the shelf and the sofa. But when we came there, they really thought about how they place their furniture there. Another period would be what we called like this 3 years period, or a time span where you could maybe switch or swap your room 3 times, and for what, like for the office and the partner we call it here, sorry. And I will briefly go through one of the apartment's plans. So we have the this overall structure, which was pretty clear, and also I think very precisely designed by us in terms of dimensions and proportions and sizes. And then there was a different phase within the construction process where we incorporated the future residents of the cooperative, and we sent them all like a blank plan of their flats. So there were only the load-bearing walls and things which they cannot change included. And along with this, we sent them this cutout plan here in the scale of 1 to 50 with what you see here, doors, and also lightweight non-load bearing walls and furniture. And we asked the residents to actually design their own flat. And the first thing, of course, here you see now 2 flats, which is indicated here. And you see there's a minimum of individual rooms, like 3 rooms, and a maximum, and in this one here, it's a minimum of 2 rooms. That's to do with the financial model, because they are subsidized, those rooms, and of course you cannot have too many, or there needs to be a certain number of people living on a certain square meter number. So we gave them those plans, and what we got in return was for example this one, and here is now merged like 2 flats in one plan. So they decided this flat here, for example, to have 2 rooms, like 2 of those 14 square meter rooms, divided by walls and added and they added some doors, and then there's this kitchen here and a living area here which was left open, and then there's this extra room here which also has a door. And what is a bit special about this is that it also has a door from that side, which is actually the neighboring flat here. And also interesting, maybe there's this 3 squares here, which is the access to that flat. So if you enter here with the lift and the staircases, you don't enter directly into your flat, but you need to walk through that room here, which is a communal room, and which is also connected to that flat here and also this neighboring flat. And this family here decided that there should be also an additional door into this room from this communal room. And maybe in the next step, you see later why they did it. So in those 2 rooms here, they have 2 kids. They placed 2 beds, and they had their master bedroom, or for the parents, they put a bedroom here, and the rest was the living room. And the neighboring flat, it was just 1 person. She moved in here and put her bed into this room with a door, and had a kitchen here and a bit of a seating place. And that was the communal room. And I think in the beginning, there weren't so much ideas of how to use that. But then after a while, they realized those are actually architects, and they had to give up their very expensive office space in the center of Munich, and they moved their office into the flat and put it into this room. And now this door here makes sense because it's accessible to this communal room. So now clients and, I don't know, consultants, they walk through this communal room into their office here. And the 2 kids had to sleep in 1 room in that period. And then there was another change here, I think after 2 months or so, that actually the bedroom here from the parents moved also into the room for the children. So now there's this double bed, like 2 by 2 meters, and 2 small beds of the kids in here. So like 4 people actually sleeping in that room. And in return, this room now no longer belongs to this flat, but they closed this door here, and this door was opened here. It's just a lock, of course, because this woman here, she got a boyfriend, and they need more space, so they took this room from this flat. And yeah, then of course they got a bit annoyed here after a while with the kids, and they divided this extra room here and put the kids here. And I think this division is a bit more of a shelf right now, so it's not like a proper wall, but it works because it's the same size as every room. So those would be changes which you could easily do within 3 years, as often as you want, because it's actually just closing a door and finding an agreement with your neighbor that you take the room from your neighbor or you share it. And then, of course, some of them did some extra acoustic insulation. I think they put a mattress also in the door from the other side, because of course through a door you hear a bit from your neighbor, but you have a bit of flexibility in return. Now turning to another project which I mentioned in the beginnings, and the time spans are getting shorter and shorter. 24 months was the time which we spent on reconstructing or trying to reconstruct the facade of our house in Leipzig here. And as you see on that image here, it's really it's from 2014, this photograph. It was really in a bad condition, and actually also nobody wanted to have that house at this time. The engineer and a lot of other people advised to just tear it down and build something new. And of course, that was not what we wanted to do it, but we thought, a bit naive, of course, can we not repair the house, and can we not repair it ourselves? So we had a few things done by a professional, which was this roof on top. He fixed it, and for that there was a cladding for 24 months, and we used this time with a scaffolding and around the house to repair a bit of the facade ourselves. So we, with a lot of videos and YouTube research, we got into this into those themes, and for example here created those profiles, or we restored the existing stucco, which was still okay, and which you see here, and added the fragments and the parts which were not so good anymore, and then did a mold of it with silicone, and then poured it with like a special concrete. So then we had all this stuff here, and it was a bit of a weekend work also, because at this time we were teaching and traveling by train commuting every week from Zurich here to Leipzig, 9 hours. So we had only the weekends, but it was quite a lot of fun to just produce those stuff. And then because we had the scaffolding, we could repair those parts here, and it was interesting for us to really explore how the building was actually made. It's quite interesting because we didn't know before that like this part here, for example, is sandstone. This one here was plastered, and then was plastered, but precast plastered, and then other parts were plastered on site, and in the end everything was painted, and it actually looked the same. So that was quite interesting, and that is the state how it looked like, I think, until 2 years ago. And at this time we still got letters from letters from the city of Leipzig asking what we were going to do with the house, and what the plans were, and if we ever wanted to move in, or somebody wanted to move in. And actually we were already living in the house for, I think, 1.5 years, just behind those foils here, which nobody sees, but we had an additional layer of thermally insulating windows behind, which you will see on the other focus on the other images. And I think this image is also about and talking about the idea of time, that maybe it should still be possible not to make this like overall renovation where you repair, or even put the whole house on such a high level at one time that everything is finished. But we think it must also be possible to see it as a process, and to continuously work as it, and take care of the house and repair it. 5 months, the duration of a mood until we have the next idea. So this is more related maybe to the inside. You see here, this is how the building looked like when we got it, and we got it more or less for free. So it was fully occupied by pigeons, and furnished. I think furniture was still from the 90s. So for 20 years, nobody moved in. And we took the freedom, because we did everything ourselves, that we placed everything where we wanted. And in the beginning we had just those 2 rooms. So you see the bed in the back, and the kitchen on the right hand side, and the bathtub, and we just put everything more or less together, and it's still like that, and we enjoy that. Those things which normally are maybe not related so much to each other are quite close to each other. So those are the windows which you could not see for quite a time from the outside, but which is like insulating frames, which we just put on the wall from the inside. Again, our kitchen and the ceiling is just like insulated, and we have this foil, so not everything is falling into our necks. And this was a division we did because we only used 2 of the rooms, so we did this sort of wall, and after a few months, then we also got rid of it again when we added the next room to it. So we in this time we got two kids, and then we needed more space, so we renovated 2 additional rooms, and then could get rid of the wall again. Even a shorter period, 4 months, maybe summer period until it gets cold. That relates to this entrance door, which we had and which we built ourselves. So in the beginning, we just needed some kind of door, and we wanted to have this opening inside, but we actually moved in without having this this opening in any way closed. But then after a while, we moved in and got our first kid, and we said, okay, we need to close it at least a bit. So we put this foil onto this door, and I think it was quite a few months like this. And because it was okay for us until we then added this glass pane to the door, so to make it a bit more proper. And you see also, I mean, that's what I said in the beginning. I don't think it's representative in any way, or a kind of a model for anyone else. It's just a very personal personal project of ours, related also to our job as architects also, and our joy to build things ourselves, and where we can experiment and try out things which you might not do for another client, for example, like this door, which is actually much higher than the door opening, because everything, like the whole house is not like really grand or so everything is a bit like 80% scaled down, and with this door it was an attempt, can you make things feel bigger actually as they are. And of course we couldn't change this opening so easily, so we just increased the size of the door leaf. The glass pane we just glued onto the frame, and then of course, like with this idea that the door is bigger than the opening, you create some problems which you then in the next step need to resolve. For example, how does the closing mechanism then work, as you can see here. So we had this steel element here then which goes into this into the frame of the door, and it's like making things, of course, really complicated, but which is also a bit of fun and joy which we had, because we can experiment with it and try out things. One night is now the final category. It's the survival time of our office windows until the glass cracked. So you see here it's a bit already advanced. The whole building here, that was the stages when we got the building. So everything was closed. It was I think asked by the city of Leipzig to close all of the ground floor area, so people could not enter it, and set it on fire. So it was like 20 years closed. And then when we took away those stones, we figured out that there were of course windows behind it, but we wanted to have a bit more of a relationship towards the street. And it used to be a bakery, which also had quite a big entrance to the street, which you can see here in those slightly lighter areas. So we took away part of part of the of the bricks, and also added this steps here so that you can enter from the street here. And it was, again, because we did everything ourselves, it was like 4 weeks like this, and then it took a while, and then after a few weeks we finally added this glass pane, which we again just more or less not glued but screwed onto this onto the existing brickwork, and with the door, which we organized quite quickly, and also included it into it. And the idea was that how can we do things that we don't need a contractor to help us. So everything was available. The glass sheets also you could just order, and it's just a matter of having enough people in the end to put it in there. And then, because everything is a bit of bricolage, and we are acting as bricoleurs, things don't work out. And yeah, after 24 hours, there were of course cracks inside our brackets here, which hold the panes, but which are still there. And I think the glass pane is now in for I think 2 years or so, and we can live with the cracks, and it's okay for us. Maybe something which you would never do in a project which you would do for other people.